Hi, it's Jason. This is the second video in a set of 3 about logic functions. In the last video I talked about the AND and the OR functions, but when you combine both of those into a single formula, the possibilities become endless, and this is where the magic happens.
Okay, in the last video I talked about how to do an AND function and an OR function. Now sometimes you have situations where you need to use both of those functions in the same formula. Here's an example. I need to test or find anybody who is a brickie or a plumber based in Queensland. So the first bit, the brickie or the plumber, that's the OR element. The AND element is when I find one of those two trades based in Queensland. So the trade has to be true and the state has to be true. So if you ever get a situation like this, build it up step by step. So the first thing I'm going to do here is to say equals OR, open the brackets. I'm going to check the trade. First of all, say, is it equal to brickie, comma. I'm then going to check the trade again to say, is it equal to plumber? And close the brackets. So that shows true for anybody who is one of those two trades. Okay, so true here, true here, true here, and true here. That's half the equation though, because I'm only interested in people who are doing one of these two trades, but also based in Queensland. So here's what I do to extend the formula. So I'm going to click on the first one. I'm going to position my cursor between the equal sign and the OR function and introduce the AND function with its open brackets. Now with the AND function, of course, I'm testing two conditions here. The first one is already written. So it's the bit I already wrote there, the OR function, which we can see is returning true or false. It's listed here already. So all I'm going to do is leave that, go to the right hand side and place a comma, and then add in my second condition for the AND function, which is, are they based in Queensland? So click the state cell, say is it equal to QLD, and close the brackets for that. So the bit I've highlighted there is the original OR function. The bit that's not highlighted are the two bits I've added. So I've put equals AND open bracket at the beginning. I've put the second condition and the closing bracket at the end. Now if both of those bits are true, it's going to show true. If either of those bits are false, the whole answer is false. So if we check the true here, you can see that they're a brickie based in Queensland, so that's good. The true here, they're a plumber based in Queensland, so that's good. Now anybody who's a plumber but based in New South Wales comes up false. Or anybody that's based in Queensland but not a plumber or a brickie, that comes up false as well. So both bits have to be true. So just a reminder, the one function has both an OR element and an AND element. Now sometimes the AND and the OR are not that way around. So in this case the OR is inside the AND, but there are occasions where the AND needs to go inside the OR brackets. Okay, so you nest it the other way around. So an example might be, show me any plasterer who has more than 30 jobs, or any plumber who has more than 10 jobs. So with each of those things I'm testing, the plasterer and more than 30 jobs, that's an AND function. The plumber with more than 10 jobs, that's another AND function. And I'm testing if either of those are true. So in this situation, the OR goes first, or it's the outer function, and the two AND functions go inside. So let me show you what I mean. So let me write it up here so we don't forget. So first of all, we're checking for any plasterer who has more than 30 jobs, or any plumber who has more than 10 jobs. So for this, I'm just going to write it all the way through from scratch, left to right. So I'd say equals OR, open brackets. Then I'm doing an AND function to first of all test, are they a plasterer? And secondly, do they have more than 30 jobs? Close the brackets for the AND. That's the first AND section done. Comma. I'm then doing another AND function where I'm testing the trade to see if it's equal to plumber. And then secondly, I'm checking their jobs to see if they're greater than 10. Close with two brackets, one for the second AND function, one for the outer OR function. And that's your formula. So let's press enter. Let's copy that down. And all those that are showing true are where one of these two conditions are true. Okay, so they're a plasterer who have more than 30 jobs, or a plumber who have more than 10 jobs. And if you check all the data here, that is true. So that's just two examples where you can combine AND and OR together. In the first example, the AND went first and the OR was the inner function. In the second example, the OR went first and there were two inner AND functions. So you can get creative with this stuff, and actually the options are limitless. So in the next video, I want to show you how to combine the if function, which is also a logical function, and use that to tidy up the trues and the falses here. Because in a big list, it's sometimes really hard to spot quickly where the trues are. You have to scan through quite slowly and quite meticulously to see those. So I'm going to use the if function to tidy that up, and where it's true I'm going to show a marker, and where it's false I'm going to show just a blank cell to keep it nice and clean. So if that's of interest to you, watch the next video. I'll put the link on the page.